Hello and welcome to the Dream Big podcast. I'm Ben Cason here with Cynthia Ramu from the Pueblo Levee Mural Project. Cynthia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you about what you got going on. So can you just kind of start us off with what is the Pueblo Levee Mural Project and what are you involved with it?
Okay, the Pueblo Levee Mural Project is it's a spin-off of murals being painted on the Levee wall over the past 30-something years, where it became more organized. Back in '78, the original Teehee artists were kind of broing behind the walls, trying to go put a piece on the wall, and that's before it became legal. And in '78, they went out there like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and put this fish on the bathtub, and they had figured how they could get out there. They're actually in their socks, and they had scouts around making sure the police didn't come, and they had signals, and the neighbors heard some whistling and some flashlights, and next thing you know, the police are out there and they can't catch them. So from there, it became a permit process, and it became legal with Gus Sandstrom when he was running for DA. And then, like a year later, a local artist, contractor, Dave Roberts, said, hey, I could get free paint. So that's where paint recycling in the state of Colorado started also. So he would show up with like a dump truck full of paint and, offer spaces on the wall. And he worked with the Conservancy District with a permit process, getting a lot of people to work out there. And that was kind of like once or twice a year. So about '92, I was like, hey, let's go bigger. I think we can get in Guinness. And, I put out the call, and we had students from colleges meeting us during Cinco de Mayo. We had people sleeping in their cars around my neighborhood for like weeks at a time. And we started connecting the pieces. So in '94, we submitted, but we didn't break the record. And the original record was done by a guy that does the whaling walls around the world. And so he had painted like a aquarium in California, and he ran out of space. So he broke his record in '93 or '92, and we broke his record in 3 years.
And this is the record for like the longest painted on the wall?
It was the longest mural in the world, and then eventually it became the largest outdoor mural gallery in the world. So what they did was they kind of put most of the footage of the wall up for the record. And so, of course, when they were taking our wall down, we no longer had a record, and then Korea broke what our original record was. But we could actually right now, if we really kept working around the clock and working larger, we could break their record and still have 100,000 square feet left.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to start working a lot bigger.
Is that in the future plans? Are you planning to get that record broken?
Oh yeah. My goal is 2 years. Okay. And like right now I have 3 artists out there painting, and they're finishing up their first mural, and they've already got the plans for their next murals. So it's kind of like an addiction. Like, you're learning the ropes literally, and thinking bigger, and getting your mojo together to continue next time and kick it out faster. Like it would take me 2 weeks to do a simple mural I did in the beginning, and after that mural I did a 120-foot long mural, 65 feet tall. I couldn't even see the other side of it, but it was like, okay, let's do this. So it's kind of like a crash course. But it's a great challenge for artists, and I'm watching all the artists that I'm working with out there. Some have never done murals before, some have, but painting on a painting you can walk on is a little bit of a challenge, but everyone seems to be figuring it out. And I mean, it's so exciting to see how they are solving their own individual problems.
That's awesome. How many artists are involved in it?
Well, right now we've got 4 out there working. I've got another 9 that have
Wow.
they just need to be able to schedule. A lot of them are working full time,
Hmm.
and they're they're waiting for that moment. So in Colorado, heck, or in Pueblo, you could be out there painting in December. So it's like doing that farmer weather watch.
Yeah.
This week I can tell you the best time to paint is through next Sunday.
Hmm.
And except we can't be out there for 3 more weeks unless we get a camel or a donkey or something to haul us out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how long is it right now? How long is the painting go?
Well, they're just kind of random right now.
Okay.
So there are some spots out there. They're divided up in phases, and we're painting on phase 1 and phase 2, which
Hmm.
is west of the 4th Street Bridge.
Okay.
Because there is some construction, they're building a pedestrian bridge this winter that will be behind the Tea Palace, starting at the Pillar Park, and then crossing over to the top of the levee wall by next June, which is when they're celebrating the 21 flood in 21. And that wall right there too, we can't paint on that right now because it needs to cure for another year or 2.
Okay.
And that area is designated as only historic murals.
Interesting.
Yes. Yes.
That's cool.
I feel like
So
I'm playing a board game sometimes.
yeah, just like trying to keep track of all the different things and make sure it puts it all together. Yeah, I mean, you guys doing some awesome work out there. I mean, how much of a slope is the wall? I know you said like if you're going to paint on it, I assume you're getting like strapped in and then you're like being lowered down. Is that how that works?
No, what was it? I mean, if you've got shoes with a really good traction, and once you get your balance a little bit, I've been kind of doing a Levy 101 with everyone.
Yeah.
Just to get them acquainted. We're putting a special primer on the wall
Okay.
that's taking it down just a little bit, because it does have a bit of a tooth, but the primer makes a difference. And we found that by putting the primer on too thick, it's worse than it was in the beginning.
Oh
So
no.
a lot of people are out there using ropes. I used to use ropes a lot. I had friends that were rock climbers that always had those great ropes left over that were nice cotton-like ropes. And so I've had some rock climbers donating a little bit of gear. So I'm setting up like a rental for people
Okay.
to check things out. I've got a couple of climbers that's willing to show people the ropes. And how to tie off best. So I've been able to get like 5 or 6 ropes. I've got my old gear, and I used to just tie off. Actually, I didn't even tie off because the rope can be like the one thing that is gonna make you trip if you're not paying attention.
So have you or anyone else up there fallen off of the wall into the levee before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I fell in the first day.
Oh no.
Off of I-25, and I mean, that was in 1989. And actually, I don't know if going over the I-25, there was like a tic-tac-toe thing that said "Our Move" on it. It was an international poster, like the Race for Space. And these guys used to paint with automotive paint. And so I'm out there painting with silver paint. And just so you know, I was not a painter. I was an art student, and I knew how to draw, but I never painted bigger than 11 by 17. And so they
And
had
then you
me
went to a hole.
Yeah, I'm like, and I wasn't facing the wall that day either. I had a rope over my shoulder and a brush, and I'm painting this silver. And they said, whatever you do, don't go to the bottom of the wall because there's no traction. And so, and it was May, so it was rushing. You could hear the water going to the waterfall underneath the Santa Fe Bridge. And so I'm like scooching down because my fingers are glued together. And you know, the water ain't gonna help me. And next thing I know, I slid down the rope. I went face forward. I swear I got algae in my mouth.
Oh no.
And then I bobbed back up. And my nails, I could hear my nails scratching on the wall. And I found a hole and got my thumb in the hole. And I'm like, just got my head above water. So two guys were painting next to me, you know, one on each side.
Yeah.
And they couldn't hear me because the water. And then finally they both looked at each other, looked down, and threw me a rope. Yeah. And my shoes were wet, so they had to drag me on my belly all the way up the wall.
Oh man. Yikes.
So I know. So I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Never again. Never.
Never
and
yet.
So,
You've not fallen in since then?
Again, and I never, knock on wood, I never had anyone fall in unless they jumped in.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. How much of an adjustment was it learning how to paint on the wall like that? You said that you went from, you know, just standing and painting in 11 by 17 to go into painting like that. What's that like?
It was amazing, actually. After, I knew about 6 of the guys that had been painting out there, and I would go out and help them. And some of them were sign painters. Some of them were professional painters, whichever. And I wanted to take the challenge because guess who's afraid of heights?
You're afraid of heights as well? Wow.
Afraid of heights. I get vertigo. But I thought, wow, this is a good way to really focus on my fear.
Yeah.
And I'll show these guys how to do this bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so, yeah, actually I lived in Denver at the time, and every time I was down here, I was just like, my brain had a slideshow. It was like, I could do this, I could do that. So I actually had this vision of a painting of the earth from the moon through a doorway. And I actually started painting it on the opposite side of the river where I had fallen in. And I started putting it on the wall, and a rainstorm came, washed me and my painting off the wall.
Oh, no.
But, so I came back, and I just really put my, artist brain on, and I put it underneath of the 4th Street Bridge where there used to be the logo of the doors. And I took me 2 weeks, but I figured it out. And actually I've got this killer photo of me working on it and on the doorknob. And it looks like I'm actually turning a 3D doorknob. So it took me to the next level of bringing in what I learned as a illustrator and a graphic designer to just like pull it off, push and pull my media. So it was amazing. It was amazing. So yeah, so that piece was small. The next one was insane, but I love digging into history.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by the history of CF&I.
What's CF&I?
CF&I was the mill, the Colorado Fuel and Iron.
Okay.
I used to drive through Pueblo when it was smoky, because I'm from Texas, and it would be like, my goodness, I'd watch that pollution, and then all of a sudden I noticed there was nothing. So I thought, wow, it would be great to capture the history of the mill. So I actually used to drive here and research in the library with one of the historians, and I dug up the history of CF&I going back to 1890s.
Wow.
It was so rich. So I designed a mural to capture the history and honor the steelworkers. And what the mill looked like in 1902, when they actually had all the original stacks. They used to have, I believe, 12 stacks there. So I found these, it was an endless treasure. Actually, I only captured like 3 images out of 25. I could have kept doing CF and I murals on the wall.
Yeah.
So I actually had the mill actually host a reception for me on the bike trail. I had 3 months to paint my mural that I had never really done before.
Yeah.
And I didn't even live here. And so, no, I had a radio station. I had the mill. I called it Whistle at 3. They blew the whistle at 3 for us at the reception. I had retired steelworkers that were in their 90s coming down to thank me for honoring them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I thought, oh, this is a place I should live. I should move here. Let's get this puppy in the Guinness World Book of Records. Let's get everyone together.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it speaks to the rich history and representing people in this community that are so diverse. And right now, going back and painting on the wall right now, I mean, it was kind of bittersweet with the wall coming down, watching all that beautiful art being crushed. But I'm ready to paint a few of those murals back on that wall.
Yeah.
Because they're historic.
Yeah. So they're taking down parts of it to like keep the levee maintained. Is that what's going on with that?
Well, they actually took all of the wall from 11th Street all the way past Santa Fe Bridge. They've been doing it since 2016. So they did it in phases. So they took us, you know, like over by 4th Street and Dutch Clark.
Yeah.
I believe half of that took the first year. So each phase took a year. And you know, the going back to the backstory, it was where a lot of the wall was slipping because the load was so heavy. And think about the concrete they probably used back in the 20s, and as fast as they could after the flood to try and divert the water. And so the wall was too tall, so the load was too heavy. So they were going to cut it back because it originally, you know, it was different heights. I think probably 50 to 65 feet tall on the 45-degree slope. And where they were slipping, they had to keep tarring. And then actually, I think where the kayak course is, when the kayak course was being put in too, the water level was taken down. So a lot of the slabs were slipping because the water was soaking in behind the wall. So that's right after there were floods, after fires, and FEMA wasn't going to approve it unless they renovated it. So, you know, it's just what happens.
Yeah, but hey, now you guys have more canvas though on that new wall coming up. So.
Oh, we do, and hopefully all this art will outlast all of us. So we're sending it to the next generation. So
you kind of already talked about one of them, but like, what are some of your favorite pieces of art on that wall? Can you tell me some more stories like that about some of the other things, either that you painted or somebody else painted?
Well, there was an artist in town called Tony the Bricklayer, Tony Paniciaro. And Tony was a poet, and he also liked to do these fun drawings, making statements about his life. And they were kind of cartoon-like. And at the same time, Tony had a lot of artists that hung out with him. So there were a variety of pieces put on the wall, just kind of scattered, representing Tony and his pieces, or his voice.
Sure.
He was truly a character. And I was lucky to know him. He used to come for Thanksgiving dinner at my house, and we'd sing Christmas carols at my piano here. And but he's passed away. But there was a piece called Adjust or Adjust. Just or Adjust. And I live over in the block, so each day I'd walk my dog and I could see this piece. And it was this cartoony looking cat. And so it was kind of Andy Warholish too. But it just had this character that spoke to, you know, like looking at life itself. the fish in the bathtub. The fish in the bathtub was something that was an evolution, and that's kind of what happened on the wall. The fish was on the wall. Next thing you know, there's a bathtub, like maybe 6 months, a year later. And then all of a sudden there's a hot faucet and a cod faucet. And then from there, there's all this abstract stuff that happened where it just kept coming out and just kept filling it in. And, you know, it just kind of like a virus, it kept growing, you know?
Sure.
And so, no, I could tell you stories forever. I mean, we actually went out and retouched up some of the historical pieces. Orland Helgold, I don't know if you know who he was.
I don't think I do.
He was a local artist, and I believe he only did one piece on the wall. I thought there was another, but right behind Dutch Clark. And there's a collection of his work. I think the Art Center has it. They also have Tony Paniciaro's work there. And it was so great to touch the wall where people like Orland had put their designs on the wall and bringing it back to life. There actually was this giant duck just below that where we had met a guy, it's crazy, back in the 90s. This guy came up while we're painting and he's yelling across the river, and he caught a record trout. And I think the guy lived right across the river. And so he said, I need a duck out there so I can see it because your paint's too small. So he came out and we all got together and put a giant duck on the wall, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, there's endless stories. I'm trying to like write a book about the history of the wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been lucky to meet some of the original Teehee artists off and on, or I've done like 5 different documentaries kind of reenacting. And so it's kind of, I feel like I'm in this special fraternity of people that, you know, are passionate about that wall. That wall to me is like my best friend. And I would love for everyone to meet my best friend.
That's awesome. So where can people like go see it at? Like where's like the best spots that you feel like people can go like walk and see art on the wall?
Right now, what was it? Right behind Dutch Clark. Or what I say we're stretching the murals out as far as we can and stagger them. So it gets people to go take a walk, take a bike ride, you know, come out and take pictures. So just right behind the Tea Palace, take your nice little stroll, you know, up to Dutch Clark. I've got an artist right now from Aurora that's finishing up a piece far west of a deer that I swear it's jumping off the wall. And she's incorporating the elements of the crows. There was a field of crows like a week and a half ago, and there's white butterflies. But yeah, I would check it out. There's a giant, beautiful mandala, if you can get a chance to get as close as you can. But it's magnificent. And Valerie Eisman, she used to do these in Austin, so she's already got her next design. She'll be back in April. So she's outlining it right now. Thomas Garbizo's doing the first piece by 4th Street Bridge. And it's a highway going, I-70 going into the mountains in Denver. Okay. At sunset. And then another, I know, he's blowing it up. It's insane. And then Celeste Velasquez, she's doing a Gaia, and it's Native American with a Quetzalcoatl and a variety of other elements that she gets her culture and her inspiration from. So everyone's like pulling from their heart. Yeah. And then we have another woman, Tia, she's going to be doing a 48-foot long peacock.
48-foot long peacock. Wow.
48 feet, twice as big as everyone else's except for Thomas's. So So we're going bigger and
That's
bigger.
big.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what do you see like the vision of it being for the next like 5 years or so? Where do you see the Levee to be at in 5 years?
I would hope that, we would have already broken the record,
Mm-hmm.
and that we still have space and we're still painting.
Hmm.
A lot of the paint that I used on my bigger murals lasted 25 years.
Yeah.
And, artists might come back and be touching up pieces. In order for us to break the record, you get to include raw concrete around it. So if there's spaces between, when we were breaking the record, we actually had to go out there and paint these arrows that went connecting the pieces.
Just to link them up.
Yeah, we were out there for like a week, just kind of Bonnie Wah, me, and a series of other artists, so we could get that measurement. So I think, public art isn't forever, and some of it changes and evolves, so it keeps us engaged. So I would hope that there's always painters out there and different ways to integrate with the wall. We talk about performance art. We talk about using the wall to do like projection mapping or showing movies, or dance performances, painting at the same time, or silk ropes off the bridges, a mural festival, performances on the top of the levee at night. So the possibilities are really, really endless because it's such a beautiful place. I would hope that there might be like solar lighting along the wall. Like the Berlin Wall, they actually, I believe they're like balloons, but they light up. So when you go to Google Maps, it lights up. I would love to see that type of lighting so that, people are drawn there. It's a safe place and we celebrate it all the time, even after dark, and make it safer.
Wow. So if there's some artist out there listening to this right now and wants to get involved with the Levee Mural Project, how would they contact you and get involved?
They can, I have a Pueblo Levee Mural Project page where I put updates. Also, if anyone's interested in applying, they can go to pueblolevyorg. There are guidelines there for painting on the wall. Also, there's an application there. And we had a $50 application fee, and we just knocked it down to $10 just to keep it minimal for the artists. We're working with paint stores on getting primer at cost and getting paint at cost, or going to the recycle. Jack Pendleton with Southern Colorado Recycle, which he's an awesome guy, and he gets paint all over the state. So we're here to help support the artists and make sure they're all successful, and we want to build an army.
That's awesome. And if somebody like me who's not good at art wants to like support you and see what you guys are doing, how would I be able to do that?
Well, you know what? We always need people to write about it. We need people to document it. We have a training program where we can teach people how to primer on the wall.
Okay.
And maybe get that creative spirit in yourself. You might not be the artist, but you might have an idea. And, I see a collaborative evolving here. We came up with a campfire collaborative like 3 weeks ago, where we're all around the fire with the artists brainstorming how we can all work together.
Yeah.
We do have a fundraiser to try and raise money for the artists, because some artists are coming from far away, or just to feed them.
Sure.
And that's also on our Pueblo Levee Mural page.
Pueblo Levee Mural. That's on Facebook, right?
Right. And Cynthia Ramu, you can find me on Facebook. I have lots of people talking to me around the clock.
Cool. Well, that's awesome, Cynthia. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm excited to share it for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to tell people about it. Honestly, I didn't know it was as big of a deal as it is. So now I want to go walk and check some stuff out. So I'll be doing that pretty quick.
There you
That's
go.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, in the morning, it's so. I mean, it's my favorite place.
Yeah.
There's fly fishermen out there all the time. The nature that's out there. Fish were jumping the whole first day we were out there. I mean, and it's like being on a mountain and having Pikes Peak behind you. You know, just we're gonna have pop-up cafes out there soon.
Really? That's so awesome.
Yeah. We were thinking about having a little hibachi, and we'll make our own dinner out there. Yeah.
That's so cool. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on, Cynthia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, this has been the Dream Big podcast, brought to you by Snooze Mattress Company. Please go check out all the stuff that Pueblo Levee Mural Project is doing. Go check out the Levee Mural. That's pueblolevyorg, correct?
Yes.
Okay, pueblolevyorg. Check out what they're doing, as well as their social media, the Pueblo Levee Mural Project. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and check out the rest of our podcasts as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye.